What's up? This is Julian, aka Delaluz. Welcome back to a Creative's Diary. I've been ill this week, so I don't really feel like being on camera, but I wanted to keep the series going anyway. As I was ill, I didn't get much done creatively, unfortunately. I'm still learning jazz piano. I'm practicing my blues and my blues scale and my 7th chord arpeggios right now, which is pretty fun because it's one of those times where I really start getting that basically every key is similar to every other key in certain ways, in how you move your hands, your fingers when you change hand positions. It's quite interesting. I wish I would have learned about that sooner, but yeah, as always, that's life. But it did get me thinking a little bit. Actually, it was more than one thing that got me thinking about an idea, an awareness this week. And it's that your success, and I mean specifically success, not like joy and fun, but your success and degree of mastery in your chosen craft is largely dependent on your environment and the way you grew up. I mean, the most pertinent factor is whether your family had money when you were growing up, because you can't learn the piano if you don't have a piano, for example. And even if you can afford the piano, can you afford to pay a piano teacher regularly? And even if you can afford a piano teacher, can you afford a good one? All of these factors determine whether you can even pursue an artistic craft at a young age, and how quick your progress, I should say, is. And for me, it's important to talk about this stuff because it's, first of all, it plays into the growing class consciousness that is being cultivated, I think, in current younger generations. And that class consciousness applied to creative endeavors and pursuing a creative career can help us put things into perspective. Because we have these ideas that are quite widespread in our society, that they're somehow prodigy kids that are just so good at what they do. And look at this child, he's 8 years old and he's the prodigy at the piano. Or look at this kid that is 13 years old and is a chess grandmaster. And I can guarantee you that in probably 99% of these cases, were these kids exposed to the art or skill that they're cultivating at a very early age. And the skill that they're cultivating from that age is usually something that's not accessible to everybody. Otherwise, there would be more prodigies for the piano, for example, but the prodigies can only be born if the aforementioned financial resources are there to enable the kid to play the piano. And then these kids all had extensive tutoring. I've worked with a bunch of teachers, both in class settings and in one-on-one settings throughout my life. I don't remember any more than this, trust me. There's all kinds of teachers, from technically inexperienced to pedagogically inexperienced to just having a bad temper. You can have all kinds of problems with a teacher, and in general, the better the teacher, the more expensive they are. And looking back at my learning experience throughout my life, a good teacher makes a world of difference. Really, you can spend a couple hours with a teacher ever, and if he really knows what he's talking about, you're gonna get a lot out of it. But if you spend months on end with a bad teacher, you're not gonna learn a lot. You might even be slower than if you were just learning on your own. So all of these prodigies and all of this idea of talent and, oh my God, look at all these talented people, take a closer look at their circumstances. And then compare their circumstances with your circumstances and their success with your success. There's going to be a pattern. And I'm not saying that you can't achieve greatness in whatever you set your mind to, even if you come from bad circumstances or disadvantageous starting point. But it's so much harder. It's infinitely harder, I would say. And most people that make something of themselves, especially in the artistic space, that are not classically trained, let's call it, they just find a niche. They hit a nerve, they capture some of the zeitgeist and make it work. It's not that they're the technically most proficient people out there. It's not that they're multi-talented, that they're just these well-educated people. They just made it work. I hope that could ease your mind a little bit, maybe, if you're experiencing these states of discouragement when you compare yourself to these successful people, especially young successful people. That's always been like a thorn in my side. But really, now that I formulated this thought, cultivated this awareness, it's all right. They just had a different start, different circumstances. They're not in any way better than me, smarter than me. They just got lucky for the most part. Sure, you gotta sit down and do it. You gotta be disciplined, this and that, but there's so much luck involved, so don't stress yourself out. And now, go create something tranquil.